All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee of the Guilderland Central School District. Today is September 25th, and I would like to have a motion for someone to call the meeting to order. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Blanca. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Our first order of business is to reflect back on what seems like a very long time ago and have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Blanca, you are so fast. Thank you. Is there a second? Nina is also fast. Are there any comments, questions, additions, edits to the minutes? All right, then all in favor? Awesome. Thanks, and a great big thanks to Mrs. Deb Sim, who turns our meetings into these lovely documents with great care and precision. So that's just, we really appreciate that. All right. Our first order of business is around the subcommittees for the upcoming year. And thank you all for completing our Google form to indicate your first, second, and third choices for one of our 4 committees. Remarkably, we're pretty close to giving everybody their first choice. There was a little bit of tweaking, I think, that happened this afternoon. But Mrs. Sim reached out to everybody with your committee assignment. These are not cast in stone. If on reflection right now or overnight you have a change of heart and maybe want to make a change, you absolutely can. Right now, the committees are all very well balanced. So if we need to tweak for one reason or another, please don't feel like we can't adjust if we need to. We want to talk about the when of the meetings. But Derek, maybe I'll put you on the spot to talk a little bit about the thinking we've had around, especially the Student Voice Committee, and perhaps doing those a little bit differently than we've done in the past. So can I put you on the spot now that I did?
Sure, that's no problem. We've done a lot of things. We got some feedback from students this year with the Student Voice Committee in particular. One of the main feedback is that they would like more students involved in some of these conversations and being able to have input and to expand this form and platform for students. So in listening to what our students are telling us, we wanted to be able to offer the middle school and the high school both in-house versions of the student voice committee, have the meeting at the actual school so we could have more student participation and have that facilitated by some trusted adults and key people who are in the school to help us pull that off. Along those same lines, we are looking at the other subcommittees, communications, research, and community engagement, and trying to figure out how we can make the most of our time. We had several meetings that throughout the year got more sparsely populated or attended. And it was difficult for, I think, to manage in the logistics for those meetings. So we were looking to meet at the same time, preferably the hour before the DEI committee in full meets, and then having the committees being able to meet and then report out during the main meeting. And each of the committees sort of have an outcome that they would be pushing for, a project that they'd be working on, and that we could apprise each other of our progress and work together to make those things happen.
So there was a lot there. Why don't we start with maybe students who want to weigh in about the idea of having the student voice meetings at the middle and high school. How does that sound? Go ahead, Shreya.
I think that's a great idea. It makes it more accessible for students to come in and talk about the problems and issues they face. And yeah, and I wouldn't mind like staying after school for a meeting like that.
Great. Any others want to weigh in? Okay. The goal here is that you don't just, the meetings aren't just for the students and everybody who's in this committee. It can be open to more people. So the thinking was if it was during a lunch or after school, students could come and pop in. They wouldn't even have to come to every single meeting, but certainly they'd be welcome to. So go ahead, Blanca.
Just a real quick question. Do the students who are on this committee participate on Student Voice exclusively, or are they part of any other committees?
We have a student on community engagement, and we have another one on communications. None on research, though.
So I have a student who did not apply to be part of this committee, and is also interested in attending Student Voice if it's going to be held during the school day. But I wonder if maybe if we open it up, is there an opportunity for, somebody to be on research that's a student?
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Would we have to announce it and do, like an application process again or a letter of interest? Because
no, the subcommittees are open to interested individuals. So it's only the group on the screen tonight are all appointed by the board. But the subcommittees are really open to those who want to be part of this work. And so they just really, we need to know who they are so we can let them know when the meetings are, and then they're welcome to come.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Go ahead, Nina.
Hi, yeah, just a question for clarification. So when the students meet in the buildings, is there going to be an advisor that is appointed with them? Do they need to have that person with them at that time? Or is it like, will it move into that kind of a situation where kids will look at it almost like a club and not necessarily making it a full club? Does there need, or will there be another person like Derek, will you be there? Or Leah, will you be there while they're meeting at those times?
You want to take that one, Derek? I know we talked about it.
Yes. Yeah. I guess the main thing was to have Leah be present at the middle school, myself present at the high school, and also trusted adults. There are already people on the committee who are actually who has signed up for the student committee, who are teachers at the school, who would also help with logistics as well. Yeah. So essentially, there will be adults to help facilitate, but we would like to give students much more agency than we've had in the past to drive the agenda.
Okay, great. So Derek and Leah, you guys will make the magic happen with the logistics of this. That's great. That's the hard part. The other thing we were talking about that Derek mentioned was like trying to find the best time for our committees to meet, because it is really the hardest thing we do is finding common time for busy people to gather. And so over the summer, Derek and I were kicking around ideas of what we could do. And one of them was, and if you hate it, you can tell us, our feelings will absolutely not be hurt, was that, you've already got this particular evening committed for the larger meeting. Does it make sense to have the other committees or some of the other committees commit to meeting from 6 to 7 and then just roll right into the DEI committee? And I know there was some emails today where that wasn't going to work for people. So we just wanted to kind of open it up to discussion about, is that a decent idea, or are there other ideas? Should we go back to straight doodle polls to try to figure out the best time? We really wanted to meet the needs of this group while making sure we're continuing to, get together and do our work. Go ahead, Tamika.
I think all ideas are decent ideas. So it wasn't an indecent idea. It was actually quite appealing. However, I know most of us do have competing priorities with sports that happen and after school activities. And if anyone is like me, you're rushing like a mad woman or a mad man trying to get back for this committee meeting alone. So I think some innovation in how we meet, even if it's like, Saturday morning coffee or something. I think we need to be a little bit creative because it's like kind of fall and everything is happening, back to school activities. So
Understood. Go ahead, Nina.
So my question would be, so I think, Derek, one major factor in the meetings is having you attend because, as this, as the leader in certain ways or providing that kind of scaffolding for the groups. I think that it's important just for you to be there to try to provide any kind of guidance that, and I'm not saying to have the groups do something the way you're specifically, intending from that standpoint, but just more from having a pulse as to what the different committees are up to. And from the standpoint of your availability, I'm wondering if the committees might run into situations when having you there might be helpful. So if each committee is meeting on its own during that time without your presence, that might present, I don't know, some confusion at times or lack of direction, if you will. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but having you there in the meetings is definitely helpful, I feel like.
We had split between Leah and myself between the two committees last year. We were just trying to figure out what's the key to the logistics. I think one of the main objectives in having everybody meet around the same time is that we would be available even if we were going between breakout rooms. That if questions popped up, we would be, one of us would be available to answer those questions and could weigh in. Yes, we're trying to make the logistics easier for Leah and myself, and also try to accommodate people's schedules because people are, things pop up. Parents have children, our students have homework. Everybody's being pulled in multiple directions, and we're just trying to find the best way to get everybody together.
Go ahead, Tamika.
Speaking of breakout rooms, perhaps I can propose another idea where we do have another night where we come together like this, in addition to this evening, where we are split up into breakout rooms for our respective subcommittee meetings. So I don't think that it would be everyone finding individual times, but maybe if there is one other date within that month that we can all commit to coming together for an hour. And then we're on this platform and then we're just put into breakout rooms. And then this way, Derek and Leah can bounce back and forth between the rooms. So that's another solution that might work for all of us instead of individual times. So that's just
If we can find that night, that magic night, that could work. The other thing I would say is, I know Derek and Leah have tag teamed some of the committees, and I'm on the communications committee and always there. So I can always be the liaison and support for some things if you need that. Let me turn it to the group. Any thoughts on Tamika's idea?
I love that idea. It's kind of like a workshop night for the, yeah. And then that could also, we could even, there could be a spokesperson from each committee. If everybody can't make it, the committees can say, there's this one thing that we really wanted to check in on. Can somebody from the committee be available that night if everyone can't make it? And then there's a presence and still connected.
Okay, great. Tara and then Emma.
Yeah, I also love that idea of one night where all the committees can come together. That's a brilliant idea, Tamika. I love it. That's great. So I'm all for it.
Emma.
As a second year committee member, I also think it's a really good idea because I know last year when we did meet as a subcommittee and there were like, you weren't there or Derek wasn't there or Leah wasn't there, it was difficult to kind of know like the trajectory of what we were supposed to be talking about. And we had ideas, but that guidance was so essential to having really good conversations.
Does anyone object to that idea? Okay. Let's talk about what night of the week is the best. Now, we're on a Wednesday now. Is Wednesday a potentially good night to do these? Like if we did it like at 2-week intervals, if the calendar works out, or the week after or the week before. Well, let me start with the day of the week. Is Wednesday good?
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to find my reaction. Thumbs up.
Look at all, everyone knows how to use their little animated emojis. Okay, we like Wednesdays. Do you want to try for the 2-week interval? Wow. That's awesome. All right, so I will work with Mrs. Sim in the morning because she is the one who makes calendar magic work. And we will do our best to get 2-week intervals in between our regular meetings. You know, when we get into certain months, we run out of days for whatever reason. But let us take a stab at finding the in-between 2-week ones. And if all of the stars align, perhaps we can have our first committee meeting 2 weeks from tonight. I'm afraid to even look at my calendar to see what that was, but so I won't. All right. Any other thoughts on our committee times? I know in a little while down the road on our agenda, I'm going to talk about our climate survey, at least the parent response part of it, and then in general. Is there anything, Derek or Leah, you want to say about the committees in general as we think about their goals and all of that? Like what should everyone be thinking about in preparation from potentially 2 weeks from right now? And I know I didn't ask you that question ahead of time, so sorry.
Well, we have been talking about that, and for the communications group, we were hoping that they would take the lead on developing a newsletter, a parent newsletter. They can determine the length of time or quarterly or however we would like to do it, but being able to communicate those things to parents. The Community Engagement Committee are really digging into trying to figure out the fireside chats and how we would rework the logistics for that to get more community participation on those nights, or be it virtual or in person, and what issues do we think we should be focusing on based on some of the things we'll discuss tonight. And also the research committee would be looking to analyze the climate, culture and climate study data, and to start looking to develop resources and dig into some of those issues.
Okay. So there's no shortage of things for the committees to work on, and other things might come up as well.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for that wonderful thinking. Tamika, you get the gold star for tonight. Good job. The next item, I'm going to move along. We did our steering committee selection a little bit different this year. The steering committee is the little group who meet in between these meetings to review, develop the agenda, to think through what will be the learning component, and decide who will facilitate the meeting, and kind of how are we going to make sure we're ready when the group comes together. So in the past, we've done some kind of election kinds of things, which, you know, in hindsight felt a little uncomfortable to do in this kind of a setting. So the steering committee, which was a small group preparing for this meeting, it was Derek, Blanca, and I. We came up with a little bit different idea, and that was to reach out to all of you as we did for our committee assignments to say, would you like to be on the steering committee and have another meeting in your month, and you know, the responsibility to plan the meetings and then take turns facilitating, which is like what I'm doing right now to keep the, you know, keep the action moving. So we had a number of you say, yes, we would be interested in doing that. So thank you very much. And so what Mrs. Sim did today, she made 2 buckets, a bucket of names from our students and a bucket from the adults who said they were interested in serving on the steering committee, because we do want to have a student on the group and we wanted to round out the adults. And so I don't know how to do sound effects with a drum roll, but I can tell you that the names literally pulled out of the little basket with slips of paper. So joining our steering committee, which is our board president, director of DEI, and myself, will be Shaka Badgood and Ria. You will be our steering committee members. So congratulations, but thank you to everybody who was willing to take on that leadership role. We meet for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes at the most to think through things. So again, thanks to all who were willing to consider that. Congratulations. Any comments, questions, thoughts? If not, I'm going to hand things over to Derek to hear a little bit about DEI in action.
Awesome. Is Leah on the call?
I am. I made it.
All right. I didn't know if you're still, you know, doing the cross country thing of bringing the kids home and all of that. If you're able, would you like to talk about the things you're doing in the schools? Because you've been quite the busy person this year.
Yes, no, it's been a great year so far. In September, I was happy to join the Pine Bush Elementary School's Welcome Back Assembly. And I love Chris's message of emphasizing the importance of inclusivity. And he did some stand-up recognitions, and we were able to hear student responses after hearing the book Where Oliver Fits. And I thought that Pine Bush did a really great job of building a sense of community at the start of the school year. So I was happy to join them. I've been in a new class at the high school. It's called Teacher Corps. And Tyler Letchin is the teacher of that. And so students, what I got to hear from them is some of their favorite teachers, their qualities of their favorite teachers. I will be back in that class in October, though, for 2 days, and on the topic of diversity in the classroom. Who are we teaching? So I'll be co-teaching that next month. I have done some tutorial takeovers for some Farnsworth Middle School classes, and we did some things on identity work, and so that was really great to do that in some classes at FMS. I was also able to get a free code to go to Kwame Alexander's literary pep rally, and so we had some middle school students participate and be part of this virtual pep rally by author Kwame Alexander. And during the time, it was very exciting because we could do a Q&A session, and there was students from all across the country. And one of the students asked a question about his favorite TV show. I typed it in, and you know what? Kwame answered his question. So that was, during the room, there was a lot of cheers that were happening because they got recognized for their question. And I know that Julia at Linwood also was able to show the same thing to the 5th grade students there. I attended the equity team meeting at Pine Bush yesterday, and today I believe Linwood and the actually Gilderland Elementary. They also had their equity team meetings, but Derek and I were unable to attend that because we were at the No Hate Tour at Gilderland High School, and that was really entertaining, and they had a great message. And so I don't know if any of the students would like to share how they enjoyed this afternoon's assembly. If anyone wants to kind of share out some of their thoughts of that today. Yeah, go ahead, Cassandra.
Cassie, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're muted. I can't tell.
And if you're having some audio issues, feel free to use the chat if you wanted to jot down something like a response or how you felt about that. So those are the things so far, and I'm really excited to continue working in all of the schools this year.
All right. In addition to that, this summer we met with all the building equity teams, so we're glad that they're off to a great start in July, and we had a really good opening, I believe. Everybody seemed to be energized, and we started working on what we called SMART goals, which are SMART goals that are inclusive and equitable. And we also did the high school opening this year for the 9th through 12th grade. They're opening assemblies, and we talked briefly about hate speech, but the students got to see us again, and it was good to see the 9th grade because we had already done a week-long workshops with the 8th grade last year, so it was good to see them again this year. We are working on space in the high school, so soon you'll be able to come by our DEI space in the high school, where we believe to hold office hours and be able to be more accessible to students. And we're also going to be meeting to talk about affinity spaces for the district at BOCES tomorrow as we go to our equity meeting. And we're also going to be looking for students to participate in BOCES Elevating Student Voices program. We had to get some transportation logistics down this past week, and it seems like those are coming together. And we'd like to have participation this year from the middle school and the high school. So students who are on the call, and we'll be spreading the word and sort of getting some students to come out to participate in that event as well. Oh, okay.
Great, and I'll read this aloud. I see, Cassie, you wrote down that you thought the No Hate Tour, there was a good mix between entertainment and teaching a lesson about being an individual in high school and not letting others affect your interests. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. And I think we're good. That's it for DEI in action.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I heard from my own high schooler that it was an awesome assembly, and he critiqued all the tricks and what worked and what didn't work. And now I'm just worried that there will be a ramp built in my driveway. Let's hope not. Blanca.
I was just going to say the same thing. Sophia and Lucia both reported that it was a really awesome assembly. So Sophia's pretty animated and gives her opinion freely, but Lucia does not. So for Lucia to take the time to tell me how great it was it means it must have been a really effective assembly.
I understand they did a jump and a flip over the head of Mr. Piscatelli, who, as my son tells the story, he didn't even blink when they did it. And I'm like, okay, it was a good thing I left for my meeting at the high school before I saw that. Because I would have done more than blink, for sure. Derek and Leah, thanks for that. I know we're up and running full speed ahead, and the summer was busy, so thanks for sharing some of your activities going forward. I want to take just a few minutes to talk about our climate and culture survey that we did at the very end of last school year. Just as a reminder, there were actually 4 surveys. We sent one to all staff, so really all of our employees. We sent one to all of our families, and we sent one to our 3 through 5 students and another to our 6 through 12 students. And they were structured in such a way where respondents were asked to read a statement about issues connected to inclusivity and belonging and cultural diversity and a number of topics. And they were asked to say whether they strongly agree, are neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree with each of the statements. The statements were written in a positive way. So if people disagreed, it would mean that that was not their experience. And then the other thing that we did structurally was for any question where a respondent said they disagreed or strongly disagreed, we gave them an opportunity to type in a little text box the why or what about their experience led them to say that they didn't agree with a particular statement. So this summer, we pulled together all of the data for our staff, and all of the responses can be filtered by building. So those 7 teams that Derek referenced early or had some time in July in order to look at the responses building by building by building. And those responses, things they heard from their staff, are some of the data that they're using to create these SMARTY goals for the year, focused in on how to support their staff. Just this week, we were able to work through the technicalities of connecting our demographic data to the data we gathered about our students. So, for example, when we asked our teachers and our parents and guardians to participate in the study, in the survey, we asked them lots of questions about their race, their culture, their language. We did not ask those questions of students because we can pull it from their student database. And so we could also learn, is this a student with a disability? We could gather a lot of information about students. And then we ran into a little bit of a technical dilemma that made it hard for us to integrate the data, the responses and the demographics so we could filter, but that has been fixed. So our equity teams are going to be diving into that probably at their next meeting. They were hoping for it for today's meeting. But tonight, what I thought I would do is just give you a little bit of a snapshot of the parent data, because we're thinking that this group of individuals, our DEI district level committee, this may be a good place for us to dive into that data and help inform some of the work that our subcommittees do and that the larger committee does. So there's a ton of data. What I'm going to show you is 5 or 6 slides, and it's district level. It's not disaggregated by building, although it can be. It's just so you can get a little bit of a flavor of it. We won't dive. I just want you to get a feel for it. So before I share my screen, did I forget anything? Are there any questions? Or can I just go ahead and share? All right, I got the thumbs up. Here we go. All right. So here we go. Let me just go to the next one. I know it's super tough to see this, but I just want to give you a little bit of a flavor of kind of the numbers of people who participated. So we had 736 parents who responded to our survey. You can see the breakdown by our 7 buildings. You can see the breakdown on whether or not someone is a parent or a foster parent or a grandparent. We also asked some questions about whether or not students were part of our special education programs or part of our ENL programs or honors placement, or if they just didn't want to say. We asked some questions about race or ethnicity, and we also asked, what language of origin do you speak? So we can disaggregate by those filters when you get to that point. So as I mentioned earlier, and I know it's super hard to see, I'm straining with my glasses here to see as well, but just to get a flavor for it. So we asked questions in a variety of categories. This first one is about inclusivity and diversity. And on the far right, you see a score in a percentage, which is its favorability score. And that's the percentage of people who responded to each of those statements in a favorable way, saying, yes, I agree, or I strongly agree. So anything that's, on the low side, like that first one, 43%, starts to tell us, okay, we have some people who aren't feeling strongly about that part of their experience. Is this something that we should be working on? And as I mentioned before, too, in the data, if an individual clicked on disagree or strongly disagree, they would have an opportunity to tell us more about why. So in this first category, in inclusivity and diversity, you can see those overall favorability scores. The next category was about building connections at school. And you could see really a wide variety of favorability schools, like teachers are responsive to my concerns or questions was high at 80%. And then the school actively seeks parental input on school matters was only 49%. Next, we had active participation, and you can see, decent numbers there with families and parents feeling like there is active participation in their experiences. The next section was around feeling emotionally safe, I think. I know I'm going fast because you're going to get this data in your work, so you'll be able to dig in much more. We asked a section about bullying. This is a really critical topic, I think, connected to our work around DEI. And honestly, it's a place where I think we have a lot of work to do. And that comes through here in the favorability scores. The high score here, my child's school values diversity and respectful behavior, that was good at 70%. But some of those others are clearly areas where we need to do more work around training and responding and so on. And then the last section that we asked parents about was the quality of their experience. They're engaged and motivated, and they're satisfied with the quality of their child's classes. And you can see there was pretty strong favorability there as well. I think my last little slide here is a word cloud. If parents or families said they disagreed or strongly disagreed, it would go to kind of like a database that could be searched and coordinated and digested almost by AI, and we can get summaries of that information. Some of those summaries can come in the form of a word cloud, and I just put the word cloud in for tonight. But when committees are actually working on this data, they can dive into a lot more detail about why and how parents or staff or students, when we get to that, said the things that they said. So let me pause and see if there are questions. I'm going to unshare my screen because I know it's super hard to see. Thoughts, comments, questions? All right. So our hope is that people can kind of dig more deeply into the data, look at it by building, look at it by other sub categories that I shared, and help inform things that we can do to address the areas where people are less satisfied than they could or should be. Because the whole goal of this is to how can we be better? How can we improve in this area? Go ahead, Anise.
I'm in the research committee, and I wonder, in kind of referencing the data, if there is the ability to reference, like kind of cross-reference the students and parents' responses, like in the same household, to see if there is correlation between a student and like their home, you know?
There isn't. I mean, that would be a very super cool thing to do, but our platform is sophisticated, but it's not that sophisticated because, you know, students did the surveys in school. We set aside, whether it was homeroom or at the elementary levels, they set aside a little block of time. And the parents went out through Parent Square. So there was no way to know if the parents who answered and their students answered, if you know what I mean. We don't have a way to make sure, you know what I mean. If you're into research, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that would be great.
Yeah, that would be helpful, especially with like community engagement, to know if there is, like, we're reaching the students in school, but we're not reaching the parents in the community. And then they go home to, you know, a different environment, you know. But okay, cool. Yeah, that was just something.
That's a great question. Blanca.
I just wanted to say that I think that there's some very useful information there. And thank you to everyone involved in the climate survey. I think it was the research group last year, right, that did much of the work. Am I incorrect?
They waded through the thousands of potential questions we could have asked.
Well, they were very well selected. I mean, if you look at them, the way they're phrased, you have, you know, both quantitative and qualitative data. So I think that's great.
Thought Exchange was helpful in that. That's the platform that kind of pulled all this together, and there is a ton of AI behind it. So the analysis of the qualitative data is really pretty remarkable. What could take hours and hours to read becomes synthesized relatively efficiently and accurately.
Wow, that's great.
All right, if there are no further questions, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Westbrook for our learning component.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I wanted to share a video with you. I know some of it's already shared, but not everyone had the opportunity to watch it. I hope if people have the ability to give a hands up or whatever, how many people have heard of Toastmasters International? Okay, all right, we got a few hands. It's a nonprofit educational organization that teaches public speaking skills, and it's worldwide. It is literally an international organization, and these clubs meet online and in person, and each year they have a competition for speeches. And the one I want to show to you is by a young man named Muhammad Khatami. He was the 2015 world champion, and this is his speech on the power of words. Now, when you watch this speech, I'd be very curious for your feedback. What stuck out to you about his message, and even how he went about conveying his message to the group? And hopefully we'll have a good discussion about how we can use the power of words in our own lives and how we can use it with each other as we weigh into some pretty challenging times, and we need to be able to use our voices to bring people together and build bridges. So I will share my screen and we'll take a look. The clip is approximately 7 minutes. Alrighty.
What? All you all think smoking kills? Let me tell you something. Do you know that the amount of people dying from diabetes are 3 times as many people dying from smoking? Yet if I pulled a Snicker bar, nobody would say anything. Do you know that the leading cause of lung cancer is not actually a cigarette? It's your DNA. You could smoke for years and nothing will ever happen to you. This whole war against smoking is just to restrict the farming of tobacco. Mr. Council Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I use these arguments, even though I just made them up, with a group of my friends. And the results, 5 of them believed what I said. 2 of them started smoking. Words, when said and articulated in the right way, can change someone's mind. They can alter someone's belief. You have the power to bring someone from the slums of life and make a successful person out of them, or destroy someone's happiness using only your words. Does that seem a bit too good to be true? A simple choice of word can make a difference between someone accepting or denying your message. You can have a very beautiful thing to say, but say it in the wrong words and it's gone. I have a son who's 4. And he had this bad habit of writing on the walls with crayons. And one evening I walked into his room and he's going at it, just writing and drawing and so on. And I said, hey. Are you stupid? Don't you ever do that again. And guess what happened? He did it again. Nobody likes to be threatened. Nobody likes to be intimidated. His pride would not allow it. He did it again just to spite me. A week later, I walked into his room and again, he's going at it. And this time, he was even looking at me just. I came down and I said, sweetie, come here. Don't do that, you're a big boy now. And he never did it again. Because his pride wants him to be the big boy. Have you ever wondered why nobody cares about global warming, even though it's a very serious issue? It could kill all of us. Because when you go home and you flip on the TV and you see a scientist trying to talk about global warming, it goes something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see from the graphs here, the statistics for 2014, it shows the water level is rising. This table shows that the monodioxide level on the third ozone layer is in a very alarming position. the message never get across. But most importantly, if you are a person who's a role model, if you're a person who's been admired, anything you say could be believed. Anything you utter could be taken as truth. My friend Nasser, he loved his father, idealized his father. He would do anything to make him happy. But his father was the kind of person who's not easy to impress. And year after year, Nasser tried, and his father was like, yeah. First year in college, Nasser got straight A's. And he thought to himself, this is it. This what will finally make my dad proud. He picked up the phone, he called his dad. Dad, I got straight A's. Are you proud? Please tell me you're proud, Father. Yeah, listen, son, I'll have to call you back. I'm busy. I'm busy was the single sentence that broke the camel's back. And he started drinking, doing drugs, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Nasser, why? Why are you throwing your life away? If the one person in the world that I care about the most doesn't care, then why should I? And one evening I got the phone call. Nasser's in the emergency room, drug overdose. I rushed to that hospital. I saw him on that bed, and I saw that machine go beep, beep, beep. And I saw doctors try to bring him back to life. Clear! 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 It's clear that a single word could have saved this life. Words have power. Words are power. Words could be your power. You can change a life, inspire a nation, and make this world a beautiful place. Isn't that what we all wanted? Isn't that why we are all in this hall? Your mouth can spit venom, or it can mend a broken soul. Ladies and gentlemen, let that be our goal. Kanto, sir.
Okay. Now, what were your impressions? Nina.
So I think to start, it's important that we reference the climate study that we just saw and the area that seemed to be the most profound and concerning, and that's the bullying issue that we're seeing. And I think that it's really important that this committee takes on, that, in the sense that how, to what extent can we address it, and words do matter, and that we are living in a time where there's the dissemination of hate and materials that may or may not be accurate, and that our students are seeing those things, and those things that they're looking at go beyond what might be something that as an adult we can teach them, because this is something that's right between them, the kids that are sending this to each other. So I think there might be a connection between the bullying and the hurt that words have caused so many kids.
I agree. Does anyone have what did the speaker do that made us feel that our words could be powerful. Is there any example that he used that connected with you personally as a group or as individuals in this group? Shreya.
For me, the example of like the weatherman speaking and like, because I really thought that showed how the way you speak matters, because like people tend to like pay attention and take into consideration of speakers who like I don't know, express their message in more of a powerful way. Like if you're just like speaking like really fast and like not really trying to like prove your point, not really showing that you care, then people aren't really gonna like pay attention to you as much. And like I know this from like a personal experience, because like sometimes like some of my teachers, when they're like explaining a concept or something, they'll just read off the slideshow, and no one really like pays attention when they do that, because to them it shows that it's not really like important if someone's like teaching in that way. So yeah.
Excellent. Anjana? I hope I
So-
didn't. If I'm messing up your name, please let me know. I don't want to offend anyone.
That was good.
Okay.
Something that really stood out to me is that I felt really engaged by his delivery, because I think he combined humor and emotion, and especially timing from when he was presenting. So like he was talking about like charge, when doctors usually try to like save a life, and then he used that word in his next statement when he was talking about his point. So I think he really utilized that, and it kept me engaged.
Definitely. I think both of you bring up an excellent point, is getting someone to care. Each of the examples was trying to pull you in, right? The use of humor, making you laugh. People were expecting humor, and then he injected an example that was actually very sad. But people could feel that sadness largely because they had felt that humor, that it was relatively unexpected, and it hopefully made it more powerful. At least that's the intent of of trying to provide that contrast. And I think you're right that how that message comes across, that use of the global warming person was saying this is a person who isn't expressing that they have a passion or a strong caring. Anise. Oh, you're still muted.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think it was also important that he used examples and topics and subjects that the audience could relate to. And I think that it's really important, talking about the work that we're doing, that we, in communities and just the variety of communities, the cross sections that will come together in a school, that we're really mindful that, when connecting with our students or connecting with the outward community, that we know our audience, and if we need to do research, if we need to bring ourselves up to speed, that we are doing the work to connect with our students, that the way that we're connecting with them is relevant to them. And we're not expecting, our community or the students or whoever we're trying to reach to be the ones that do the work to connect with us, but that we're doing the work to connect with them.
Excellent. Thank you. Pamela.
So I apologize for my voice. I'm on the upside of a cold, so I'm getting my voice back. So I have this really beautiful voice right now. I was most, and this is, so I work with college students. That's my job, right? My job is working with college students. And one of the things I thought, and that I talk to my college students all the time about, is the beginning of his speech, when he talked about the smoking kills, and then he said, oh no, diabetes kills more people than smoking, and us and students and adults taking this, right? So somebody said it out loud, so now it's the truth, right? And so then him going back and talking about, right, that's powerful words. When you say something in such a setting that others hear, that like people are like, oh my gosh, now did you know that diabetes kills more people than smoking? When in reality, he's like, well, I just totally made that up, right? And I think that one of the things that we in our community, is, and this is something that's, I think in social media, right? So it's just so easy to put stuff out there, and sort of say things that people not grounded in research, not grounded in truth, not grounded in sort of this like equity lens. That's really sort of hard sometimes when you're an educator trying to like get students to understand like Wikipedia is not a really great source, or this is not right. You have to mind your sources and look for things. And so that to me captivated me at the beginning because it's something that's really personal to me and to the students. And I think I love I'll just give a shout out to the Positivity Project. I know my daughter, being an elementary school student, and doing some of the research that she's done and some of the work that she's done there, she's really been able to use some of those concepts when she's talking about like some of these things that we talk about in our house. So I've always loved that we have that character and building character and strength, and sort of a little more than just just taking things as gospel truth. So
I thank you for that. I think you alluded to something that Nina brought up earlier as well, is that being able to have you can say something with confidence and get it from someone who's in a position of authority and assume that what they're saying is accurate. And if they state it with confidence, like you said, 5 of my friends started smoking, like, hey, I guess it's okay. Like it can really, the way we put our words together can really change minds. So the ability to be critical and to assess things analytically is extremely important, especially in an educational type of environment. So I wholeheartedly echo what you're saying. Tamika.
I actually think Tara had her hand up first, so I'll let her.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm reading them in order. I shall be going. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. I think what really struck to me was people need to feel like you're listening to them. They need to feel like they're being heard. And, to say, oh, I'm busy, I can't do this. I mean, it could kind of send this very negative kind of spiraling that does happen. So that really stuck out to me a lot too. And the example of the child drawing on I had that with my daughter who's in the other room. He was definitely the only one. I have 3 kids. She was the only one who would draw on the wall. And finally I was, I did that. Don't ever do that again. Yell at her. And then I kind of went, all right, why are you drawing on the wall? And she's like, it's better than paper. And I'm like, yeah, you were 3. Don't worry about it. It's okay now. So I got big paper from Michael's and we just kind of made it, you make a deal, it's just, but it's like, did the yelling and getting really stern work? No, she did it anyway, so it's just how you talk to people and being heard. I think people want to feel like you're hearing them and helping them. So that's what struck with me.
Thank you for that. Because especially when it's something difficult to hear, sometimes it's hard for us to have that soft heart enough to listen when we're trying to get compliance or get people to think the way we want them to think. And sometimes we just need to listen and hear where someone is coming from, whether we agree or disagree, but to make sure that they're heard. And I think that's a very important principle that we need to hold dear. Tomika, would you like to bring your thoughts back to the table?
Yeah. So my thought and my take on the whole speech was, in the beginning, he did demonstrate how when you speak with intention, the message gets across, whether or not it's, fake news or not. When you speak with intention, people listen. And then he went on to use the examples of how, when there is, speaking with intention and either a negative connotation, to your child, is not, it's also has great meaning, right? And so that brings me back to a saying that I usually say to my kids once in a while. There's a reason why the good Lord gave us 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Is when you you have more to listen with and more to observe with or do the research with, and you have one mouth. When you finally listen and you finally observe and look, then you speak with intention through that one mouth. And so making sure that everything they do, bears that weight. And I take that saying very seriously, because oftentimes we can make or break someone, and or I would say infiltrate their entire upbringing by just one statement that will stick and change their perspective about who we are, how they're going to love us, or how they're going to interact with us moving forward. And so that is very important. And I also had a child who drew on her dresser, and I instead of yelling at her, I yelled at the idea of her drawing on her dresser, and I used the mommy dearest approach. I'm a great actress. I think I'm in the wrong field, where I just completely turned on my mommy dearest face. And I said, I can't believe you drew on the dresser. And I just broke down and cried in front of her dresser. And she didn't know what to say. And I said, I'm never going to get this off. They're never going to get this off. And I did it on purpose because I wanted the reaction to be not aimed at her, but aimed at the fact that there was something now that ruined her furniture. And so she immediately got down on her hands and knees. She took the sponge and she just kept saying, I'm sorry, mommy, I'll never do it again. And she proceeded to help me clean the dresser. And she couldn't believe that I was so distraught over a piece of furniture, but I was not mad at her. So there's my little tactic. So don't ever do that. Never be like me, but yeah, it works.
All right, Blanca.
I'll start with some levity. I would have actually preferred that my children write on the wall. My youngest used to stick things up her nose, including the biggest almond you've ever seen in your life. So it wasn't until a very uncomfortable ER visit that Lucia stopped doing that. Anyway, so I thought the video was great. One thing that resonated with me was the phone call that was the straw that broke the camel's back, where the father said he was too busy at that moment. And I was thinking about it from the perspective of both perspectives. So the father probably didn't realize that one response, sort of sealed this individual's fate and was a turning point for them. And then I was thinking about how that relates to bullying. Our students don't know whether or not that phrase, that joke, that statement, that look is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it's so important to impress that upon our students, because really you don't know what people are carrying on their shoulders and what will become too much. So that really stood out to me.
Definitely. You brought us full circle almost to our original comment. And it's with trying to develop our sense of community here. And we're trying to figure out how we fit in with each other, how we attach to one another, and the messages that can be brought to bear that can reject people who we say we want to bring into our family or our community. And how is our messaging conflicting in some respects? Not every element of our community feels heard or communicated with, or that their perspective will be listened to. And that's something that I'm hoping that we can band together to start to explore and to develop and to use these subcommittees in a way that can bring people into the table, and that we can have these forums where people can see, we can identify what people care about, for one, and let them know that we're giving proper consideration to the whole continuum of thought, and trying to figure out what we can do, what is the best of our thinking to come together to bring the best of our thinking together to address these problems. And this is difficult work in polarizing times. If so, some people we may not agree with, but their thoughts are still worthy of our consideration, and we need to be able to talk about the idea or the impact more so than than trying to yell or scream at someone who may have done something that may trigger us. And so the speaker gave us a lot of food for thought and things to think about, and hopefully things about how we want to create a narrative for our community, how we can bring ourselves to the table. I was taking notes on things that everyone was saying, and trying to build that sense of community here, and trying to identify the things that are undermining us. Like with the climate and culture survey, we sort of asked, if you're not strongly agreeing, if you're not having a favorable score, then what is the impediment? What is in the way? So part of us is trying to remove those barriers for people that may be having difficulty finding their way here. And then accentuating, the other part of that is accentuating the positive. What are we doing well, and what can we amplify here in our community to ensure that people come out and participate and share their thoughts. And we've had our series of challenges in the past year, trying to pull people and get people's opinions. And we're so happy to have new blood and old blood together in this forum, so that we can come together and start to try and figure this out and leverage the best of our thinking. That being said, does anyone have anything else they are burning to share or to get off their chest? Either about what the power of words and what the person had to say, or how we can leverage that in our work. I think Nina and Blanca both brought up how direct leveraging it in terms of bullying and things that are happening, issues that were important to our community from the data, and that's the type of thinking that we're looking forward to. But is there anything else on anyone's mind that they think we should be aware of or be thinking about? Okay, then I thank everyone for their participation tonight and listening to what was said and taking to heart the message that was conveyed and trying to share your thoughts with regard to how we can leverage this. And hopefully this will lead us forward as we try to attempt to take on all the challenges that this new year brings and puts in our lap, and begin to open up the doors to allow people into our spaces. Maria, I'd like to hand it back to you.
All right. Well, Derek, thank you for finding that video. I know it's been very powerful. We used it at our leadership retreat during the summer with all of our administrators, and I think Mr. Piscatelli shared it with the high school staff at their first staff meeting. And there's just a lot of food for thought there about how we listen and how we speak. And I think it was great to bring this video to this group and give us a chance to talk about it. Go ahead, Blanca.
Just real quick, I think it would be so valuable if our students could see it too. I don't know if there's ever an opportunity. It's not particularly long, but if there is an opportunity, I think it would be great.
That's a great idea. Both of our large buildings have television broadcasting capabilities, so maybe it can be a homeroom activity sometime. So great idea, Blanca. Thank you. All right. So look in your email for some confirmations about having our workshop meeting for our committees in a couple weeks. I did look at my calendar and it looks good for me, so I hope it's good for everybody. Wednesdays seem to be okay. And having said that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Blanca. Thank you, Nina. We've had like bookends on the motions. So thank you all. Great first meeting. So nice to see all of you together, and we'll be together again soon. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks so much.